So we're now moving on to our next session, and we're going to be looking at something that I think has come up in the discussions, particularly in that last session on launches. So this session is going to be looking specifically at launches and looking at ensuring long-term autonomous access to space for Europe. So I think we have our panel again with us. Fantastic to have everyone here, and we're just about ready to go. And as I said, Olivier, delighted to have you back here this time as the moderator. So I will leave things in your capable hands. Olivier, over to you.
Thank you very much. Sorry for turning my back to half of the room, but I prefer to see the speakers. You're not usually moderating a panel on launch in Europe for the moment. It's kind of a dangerous activity, but I'm happy to have a panel of normal people, so which is not that common in access to space policy for the moment. So I will, without further ado, start asking first question, and in very old-fashioned diplomatic style, I will start with Raoul and then finish by institutional speaker. So Raoul, nice to meet you. It's the first time that we meet. Congratulations, you are actually the first new access to space actor having succeeded. So,
yes.
Congratulations. It's impressive. So the question I would like to ask you, I mean, you have many potential competitors, existing and potential competitors. So my question is, how do you see, without telling us, or if you want to tell us industry secret, you're welcome. But what kind of market do you foresee? What kind of market do you want to address? And how do you see the evolution of those markets and the evolution of your products?
Okay, perfect. So, well, first of all, thank you very much to invite PLD Space to that amazing event. So, as you know, PLD Space is the most promising launcher company in Europe. We made a successful test flight past October. We are planning to do our first orbital launch by late 2025 from French Guiana, being the first one to operate from there outside the Ariane program. So very proud to try to, let me say, to keep pushing that European field that you stay talking in the past panels, so that we have a lot of challenge on that. So we are trying to help to put Europe at global level. Of course, competition is very hard, and we are proud to compete with our colleagues in Germany, UK, France, because that competition, I think that will be very, very good for Europe. Of course, it's very important from the policy perspective to be or to maintain that fair competition, to not, let me say, to develop one champion and to forget, because when you generate one champion, you generate also 4 or 5 losers. So we need to take care about that. So we are very, very happy to compete, let me say, in the institutional market, of course, and outside the institutional market, that for us sometimes is larger, is bigger, because we are now putting on the market a small launch vehicle. So our capacity is to launch between half to a ton platform satellites. So it's not that big. So our market is a niche today. Of course, our ambition is continually growing and to develop larger rockets, but for the moment, it's just trying to put our Mira 5 in the path. So we see, let me say, the market is there. So we have here so many customers of PLD Space that they are asking for launch opportunities through Mira 5, let me say, outside the classical institutionals, and also European Space Agency, European Commission. As you know, PLD Space is one of the selected companies for the flight ticket initiative. We are following all that opportunities that for us are massive, because to convince investors, you need demand. You talk about that before. So having the institutionals as an anchor investor, like our national government, European Space Agency, European Commission, is one of the keys to show confidence to our shareholders, because at the end of the day, PLD Space is a fully private organization. So with the support of our government, like all the launchers in the world, and also at European level. So the market is big enough for several newcomers in the market. I am quite optimistic on that. When we found the company in 2011, to be honest, let me say, our market that we are targeting is not that big, and today the opportunities are like double, like in the forecast at that date. So again, so competition, I think, is very good. Europe, we need more launch solutions. Of course, for us, it's impossible to solve all the problems, because our organization today, it's like medium size. But again, our ambition in the coming years is to continue growing to face bigger challenges.
Many thanks. I will have plenty of questions for you after. Charlotte, you represent Arianespace. We have heard a few months ago, but it was in the air since some time, that the European Commission, and specifically Commissioner Breton, stated that the Commission wants to play a role in European access to space. We don't know much more than that. Perhaps Isabella will explain to us a bit more, but in the meantime, what would be the expectation of Arianespace regarding an involvement of the EU in access to space?
Thank you, Olivier. So first, I just want to remind that as a commercial player, Arianespace plays by the rules defined by this institution, and it's not to us to set up the rules, but I will answer your questions. And we see this growing interest of the European Union for access to space as a positive development, as it really recognizes the strategic role of launchers in space policy. Now, when you have an ambition, I think the first thing to do is to know your strength, and the European Union has really undeniably two major strengths. First is it's the normative power that can really change the face of a sector through regulation. And second is that the European Union is really capable of generating major programs that are structuring for the space sector. So Galileo and Copernicus have demonstrated it, and we hope to see it again very soon with IRIS². So in this context, I think that the EU is best placed to enforce the principle of strict European preference for launchers. So this would mean asserting, maybe in the next EU space law or in the next EU space program, asserting that we'll launch from the European territory with a European player that develops its technologies and it produces its launchers in Europe, just as PLD or as Arianespace. By doing so, it would really set an example for other European buyers in Europe, starting with member states. And then the next logical step, and I know that the European Commission is already thinking about that, if other actors agree, would be to aggregate launch demand within Europe so that it could improve the predictability of public demand. It could create a stable market and ensuring a sufficient launch cadence. So it's very excellent news that the European Union wants to play a greater role, and maybe a way of achieving this ambition would be first to enshrine European preference with IRIS². And then in the long run, we hope that the European Union will eventually facilitate a reconvergence of the launchers industry in Europe, because competition is very fashionable right now, and it's a good thing. I share the opinion of my colleague. It encourages innovation and speed of execution. But competition is a mindset, and it should not be a model and an end in itself, especially when, as you said it, Olivier, the size of the institutional demand is limited in Europe. So we need to bring out the best actors and to rebuild around them. And maybe, as you said, an industrial strategy for space could be a way to help the sector organize and get stronger. Because especially in the face of the competition of SpaceX, and this goes way beyond launchers, because it puts pressure on all actors in the value chain. I think that our motto should be that united we stand and divided we fall. So, and then I just wanted to finish by thanking the European Commission for its renewed confidence with two launches on Ariane 6 for the next generation of Galileo satellites. We're getting ready to launch 2 Copernicus by the end of this year. And so the European Union has always been a major partner for Arianespace, and we're really committed to meet the future needs, starting with IRIS², as we have a launcher, Ariane 6, that it's perfectly adapted to deploy constellations. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlotte. So now, Tony, so Isabelle took my trick of proposing a fantasy tool with the magic wand, but I have another one. I propose that we take a time machine, Tony, and that you go back to 2014. If you were able to go back to 2014, are there anything that you consider should have changed, should be done in a different way to avoid some of the problems we are encountering now in the European access to space.
Thank you very much. Time machine, I like it. So let's travel this time machine. If we want to understand the choices that was made, namely to develop Ariane 6 in 2014, I think it's necessary to understand what happened in the sector before 2014. So if you allow, I will take you all with me in the time machine, and we'll go further back in time, back to 2004. So in 2004, Ariane 5 was existing, operational, and we had to decide a very important support program to Ariane 5 to close the business plan. And so this program was called European Guaranteed Access to Space, and it was basically paying the fixed cost of the exploitation of Ariane 5. This was supposed to be an exceptional measure, that if we go now to 2009, it turned out we had to continue this support program. Now, further on our journey towards 2014, we can observe that Ariane 5 ECA was introduced in 2005. The Ariane 5 ES, with its reignitable upper stage, launched 5 ATV and 3x4 Galileo satellites. And after that, it was decided to discontinue this reignitable launcher, Ariane 5 ES, since Soyuz was a much better suited for replenishment of Galileo and also to launch rather heavy satellites to the LEO orbit. So now let's travel further and land in 2014. What do we find here? So Ariane 5 is mainly launching commercial satellites to GTO. Out of 6 launches per year, only 1 in average is institutional. And Ariane 5 still needs an important support program. Soyuz is launching mainly European institutional satellites, Galileo and Earth observation satellites, which is above the limit of Vega. So the obvious question in 2014 was, why do we subvention Ariane 5, which is mainly active on the commercial market, while we are launching most of our institutional satellites on Soyuz? The obvious answer to this is that we must develop a European launcher that can replace both Soyuz and Ariane 5. Now, the modular reignitable Ariane 6 with its 2 boosters in the Ariane 6-2 version to replace Soyuz, and Ariane 6-4 with 4 boosters to replace Ariane 5 was a good choice. It was clear that the reignitable upper stage should be based on the Vinci engine that had been developed. There was some discussion on the lower part, which some said should be based on solid rocket propulsion, and some say it should be based on a continuation of the Ariane 5 main stage and evolution, and solid rocket boosters coming with Vega. So in the glaring light of hindsight, the choice of solid rocket propulsion would have been a catastrophe. Today, the future of space transportation is surely based on liquid reusable propulsion. And we are, by the way, working on that, I can assure you. Now, let's take the time machine and travel to today. And Ariane 6, with its very agile upper stage, is the perfect launcher for the European institutional market and also for the commercial market that evolved towards mega constellations and a constant GTO market at the best. The order book of Ariane 6 is full. We have 30 launches on order for Arianespace has. And the majority of these are actually commercial launches, mega constellations. You maybe heard the intervention of Jordi from Amazon this morning. Now, so what is complicated? The only obvious problem with Ariane 6 is that it is 4 years late. There are many good reasons for that. A difficult start, mainly because we only develop a heavy launcher every 30 years in Europe. Some competencies had to be reacquired. Some technological choices were not at sufficient technology readiness level, such as the Opto-Pyro, the auxiliary power unit, and the choice to maintain the gyro connections to the upper stage right until the liftoff also posed a lot of problems. And then we had COVID in the middle of it. So there were many good reasons. Having said that, all heavy launchers developments are presently about 5 years late. Ariane 6 is not an exception. So since you ask me what made Ariane 6 complicated, I think the biggest mistake in the Ariane development was maybe to believe that we could make the maiden flight in 2020. It led to some unfortunate choices. We actually cancelled Ariane 5 orders. 8 Ariane 5 were cancelled. Then this belief in the 2020 date also made to a belief that our dependence on Soyuz to launch Galileo satellites will only last for a period of 2 years, from 2018, when we launched the last ones with Ariane 5, to 2020. This turned out to be 6 years. And actually, this risk, as you all know, materialized. We had to stop Soyuz from Kourou. And that was what was leading to things becoming very complicated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tony. And now, finally, Isabella will have the difficult task of reading in the mind of his commissioner. So coming back to this topic of Commissioner Breton having declared that the EU should have a role in access to space, thus at least at the level of DGDFI, does DGDFI has perhaps a clearer view, a clearer understanding of what you want to do? And if yes, we are all ears.
Thank you very much for the question. I'm very happy to be here this year with this very nice panel. And I agree with Tony, access to space is not an easy topic, nor an easy task. For me personally, not an engineer, is amazing as still in this century where everything seems easy. I mean, we are speaking of autonomous driving, artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. It's still very difficult to launch spacecraft in space. So it's very, very challenging task for all of us around this, not around this table, but around these tables this afternoon. Indeed, Commissioner Breton is very ambitious. We are in this difficult situation with plenty of satellites ready to be launched, also to ensure the continuity of the services provided by Galileo and Copernicus at the moment and in future for IRIS². And we had not any European solutions as we wanted to have. So we were facing very, very difficult situation. We found a temporary solution, but we are very keen in the next few weeks to see the return to flight of Ariane 6, the flight of Ariane 6 and the return to flight of Vega C in the coming months. But at the same time, already this space regulation is going beyond what is the European flagships. Already now, there is not only Galileo and Copernicus as it was years ago, but we are really looking at broadly ecosystem. Article 6 and actions like Cassini and many others are really looking at supporting the full space ecosystem in Europe. And access to space is part of it. not only for the needs of the EU, but also for the needs of a larger scale of ecosystem, other member state, commercial players. If you really want to have a fully autonomous space ecosystem, you also need to have more autonomous access to space. With also cross spillover effect for institutional needs and also other needs. What Breton has in mind? To have for sure a stronger role from the EU and the Commission. Until now, we are a customer, while we are the prime customer of institutional launchers in Europe, thanks to the investment in the EU infrastructure that IRIS² should be ready soon, will even increase and increase. This is why we want to have a stronger role in defining access to space in Europe. If you buy a car, you go to the car vendor and you buy the car. If you want to buy 100 or 1,000 of car, you want to have a say in the development of the car. Not forget that also European satellites have very strong security requirements. So it's not just you go to the market and you buy what is available. We have very strong security requirements for Galileo in particular, for IRIS, but also giving the tendency, as was discussed in the panel before, in the future, maybe also for Copernicus. So really we want to have a stronger role, not only in the development of institutional launchers, but again in the full, let's say, launchers ecosystem. We have already actions. We have different programs in Horizon Europe. More to come with the definition of the next work program. Raul was recalling before the Flight Ticket Initiative developed with ESA. This is what I call a win-win program, because for one side, you act as an anchor customer for new launching solutions. For the other, you also allow new companies to testing technology in space. Space technology, but not only space technology. It's also looking again at how space is looking beyond the space ecosystem. And then we have already, in any case, in this regulation, an article on access to space, and we are going to fully exploit it with some concrete actions as a platform for the aggregation. As was recalled many times in the panel before, one thing is key for access to space is the market. It is not so easy to jump in other markets, as is the case, for example, for some technologies. We cannot join force with other sectors. Access to space is only for space. So we need to aggregate the demand. We need, as Charlotte was recalling before, a European preference, not only for the Commission, that is a fully commit, but also with the other players, member state, ESA, commercial players, why not? Because if you don't have a larger demand, it will be difficult to have multiple solutions. And then also the European Parliament, and then I'm finishing, is backing the Commission in this regard, because only this year we have 3 what they call pilot projects and preparatory actions, that are actions where the Parliament is really asking the Commission to develop some policies, and in this case was access to space. So we will are preparing studies to prepare the new access to space component in the next space program, but also more game-changing innovation and also looking at the defense needs.
Thank you very much. Just personal access to space is only for accessing space. It might also have issues related to defense, but I know it's a taboo in Brussels. I told you I have more questions for you, Raul. Obviously, if you want to make money in launching things in space, at some point you need to increase the number of payloads you can put on your launcher and increase the frequency. So I heard in your first intervention that there is, as all of your colleagues, I would say, in RFA and ISAR, this willingness to increase the size of your launcher at some point. How do you see this evolution that is taking place in PLD, in other, and the fact that today in Europe we already have launchers that are addressing the same mass, I would say. How do you see this market?
Yes, so no, it's a very good question. So in our opinion, there are like 2 ways to growth in the launcher industry. So you have, let me say, we have our R&D like continuous program. So the Mura R&D project, when we develop all the capacities to be a launch operator using Mura One. So for us, we spend like 10 years developing all the, let me say, capacities and skills you need to be a launch operator. You need to develop and test and operate engines, structure, avionics, GNC, flight software, ground equipment, umbilicals, release mechanisms, staging. So payload. So there are so many technologies to be developed, and it's easy to underestimate that first part. And after that, you need to enter in the market, developing a kind of minimum viable product. And our minimum viable product is Mura 5, is the high performance tone that matches our performance matches with the other, because at the end of the day, we are following the same market approach. And one of, let me say, if we look at our P&L, launch cadence is super important. So our break even, it's in between 5 to 6 Mura 5 launches per year. And you need to launch more than that number to be like profitable. That is our objective, of course. And one of the, let me say, path to grow our business is to increase the flight cadence. So we target an objective to launch 30 launches per year in 2030. So that's our milestone. It seems like, oh my God, this is impossible, blah, blah. It was impossible to develop an engine, to develop a vehicle. So we see that market, we are preparing the offer, we see the, let me say, the appetite, of course, because we are targeting the global market, not just the European. So we have customers in Asia Pacific, Middle East, North America, like Canada, United States, Mexico. And with that, let me say, approach, you have a kind of cap in terms of growing, because using a small launch vehicle, it's impossible to grow more. So the next step, the next, let me say, natural or standard step is to develop larger rockets. One of the other keys to be profitable is not just to be bigger and bigger and bigger, is also cost efficient. So so we are by far the most cost efficient company. We develop by far more technology than the other with less money. And this is one of our like mindsets and vision of how to develop things, because it's not just to, receive money from investor and to do things. No, you need to be compliant with your financial model, first of all. And our technology to manufacture, to produce, and to test, and to operate, and to do the logistics is super, super, super simple, super robust, of course, eco-friendly. And with that basics, I think PLD Space will be one of the most competitive launcher companies in the world, because we are super proud to be the successful European champions, but our ambition is to lead at global level in our market niche.
Thank you very much. I know that Tony wanted to react, so Tony, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Olivier. I must react to this. Now, if I can use the time machine again, back to Seville in November, we actually had to find a new support program for Ariane 6. And we managed to do that. But there was also a decision to completely change the paradigm of access to space in Europe. And if we look forward, we are very enthusiastic about all these startups all over Europe, in Spain, in France, in Germany, in the UK. And we actually want to grow these launches through what we call the European Launcher Challenge.
I was coming to that.
Sorry.
Oh, God.
So it's just working. Okay. So we will launch this challenge, and we will support the next step towards these heavier launchers. And we are working with the Commission to aggregate the institutional need all over Europe. So ESA, European Union, EUMETSAT, etc. Also national programs. And we believe that there is room for some payloads to our European guaranteed access to space, which will for some time be Ariane 6 and Vega C. But as we grow these small launchers to become bigger, we want them to make some competition to our institutional launchers. And if we take the time machine into the 30s and maybe even 40s, I hope PLD will be a competitor to Ariane 6 and shake the system, because they have approaches, as Raoul just explained, which are very competitive. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlotte, Arianespace was, I was about to say comfortable, but this is might be take it in a bad way. But Arianespace was the European launch service provider for decades. Actually, Europe was a precursor because we had the first commercial service provider in the world. Now you see arising around you several new manufacturers that at some point will want to sell services, launch services. How does Arianespace position itself in this landscape? Or do you see your role in this evolving landscape? There is a rule in this panel that if you don't want to answer the question, nobody is obliged to answer the question. Huh?
No, it's very challenging for a company that has been established for so many years to see the context evolving. But I think we fully understand, we fully understood the changes around us, and we know that we have to change. Then I think we're pretty comfortable because the Space Summit in Seville really answered about the roadmap for the future and how we are going to have a transition phase of coexistence between ESA developed launchers and emerging launchers. And I think that Europe gathered around Ariane 6 and Vega C. As you said, member states decided to support Ariane 6 and Vega C, and that's very important for us to keep this strong support as long as we don't have any alternative on the market, any alternative on the heavy launcher segment, because on the smaller segment we already see some progress. And then there is the European Launcher Challenge to prepare the future. And this does not keep us from exploring new ways of collaborating together and having some collaboration with new actors. For example, it was in 2022, Arianespace signed a memorandum of understanding with PLD Space, with DARC, with Orbex, with new actors. So we saw the times changing, and we're evolving to that. We know that we have a lot of work ahead of us, but we're not afraid of competition, and we're going for it.
Thank you very much. Coming back to Tony for a very short but anecdotal question. For years, we have been hearing when a new launcher was going to be launched for the first time, we talk about the maiden flight. Now we hear ESA Director General talking all the time about inaugural flight. Is there any sort of difference, or it's just a change of?
The right word is inaugural flight.
Okay.
And maiden flight is forbidden by our comms people because it has a connotation. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Very clear. Isabella, in your I mean, clearly in the ambition of the Commission to do something in to space, I can't really not see the fact that there is some sort of inspiration of what's happening in the US or perhaps in other space power. What is inspiring the Commission for the moment in your initiatives?
Not the US. No, it's true. The US, they have a very successful model. Not the US, SpaceX, a successful model. I think there was a recent article published by Eurospace, yes. Also on why it's so successful, and it was very, very interesting about not only SpaceX but the full cycle of Elon Musk and space. What I think we look at them is not only obviously the size of private finance they have, but is for sure their attitude to risk. There is, I don't remember the name of the new huge rocket is developing, and every meter gain in space or in the air is seen as a huge success and not as a failure. And this is something that is missing in Europe. I mean, We just want to have the ready products in a field where there is not ready solution. So we need to be more open, and this is the role of the institution to help and support also the private sector and the financial sector to be less risk adverse.
Yeah, I really thought that in the case of very unlikely issue at the inaugural flight of Ariane 6, people will talk about a step towards success and not failure, but okay. This is not the time for discussing this. Tony, regarding, I'm coming back to the European Launchers Challenge that is really steering the launcher industry in Europe. What is it exactly that ESA or ESA member states, more specifically, are aiming at? Is it really to develop new launcher in a new way, or is it a way to show that G-return is an issue in the development of launcher?
No. The way we want to propose these programs for decision in the CM25 will be according to a scheme of fair contribution. It was discussed at Council last week, and there was a resolution concerning geographical return policy, or industrial policy, as we call it. And they were talking about fair contribution. So we will do the competition. We will start make the call for proposals beginning of next year. We'll run the competition, and mid next year, or maybe a little bit later, we will have the winners, and they will have a proposed program, and we will know their geo return, and we'll then go to CM25 and get it financed according to that geo return. So there is no geo return constraints on the constitution of these proposals at all. It's something that we will take care of afterwards.
Question for everybody, perhaps more for our institutional guest. There is clearly a willingness, a political willingness to see the development of several companies capable of developing and launching. And I fully understand from the institutional, from the customer point of view, the need to have a competition. It's always best for the customer. But do you believe that there is a possibility in Europe in the next year to sustain this competition, meaning to have a market that is sufficient to sustain at least 2, 3, perhaps 4 actors? How do you see this? I mean, we know about the institutional markets, even with the expected increase of IRI², the institutional market remains super small. So what are your views about this? You are not obliged.
As you know, the Commission is very ambitious, not only the Commissioner, but also in the FIS, very ambitious plan for the next MFF is not then for the Commission to decide. The multi-annual financial framework and the space program at the end are proposed by the Commission, but they're approved and financed by Member States. Member States are always very also ambitious in space, in the European, EU and national policies. As I was saying before, obviously what is key is the aggregation of demand. For the commercial needs, let's hope also for the defense needs. You say it's taboo, it's true, but just let us remind us what was European industrial defense policy in Europe 5 years ago. It was basically a huge taboo. And now you have 2, 3, 4 programs, and some of them are really built in 1 year. So it has to be an obstacle. It will be a challenge for sure, but it has to be an obstacle. So for sure, the aggregation of the demand, having an ambitious space program as we have, and as we hope Member States will have the same aggregation of demand. Why not also the commercial demand if we are really a really lively space ecosystem and the growing of new actors will be also new satellites built and they need to be launched. And why not, as Raul was saying before, try to attract non-EU customer in the future.
Of course.
I really appreciate what Isabella said, and I fully share it. But I've been counting the satellites for the next 10 years, and there should be room for at least one challenge in the 2.5-ton class, and one challenge in the 15-ton class, which is 15-ton to Leo. And if we stretch it a bit, we can have two in the smaller class and one in the bigger class. But future will see what they will propose. I have a RFI, request for interest, out right now that has to be answered at the end of June. And we shall see what it is that, because we listen to industry, of course, and we shall see what are their ambitions. Thank you.
How do we see this, I mean, on the opposite side, I would say, of the political side, we see on the industrial side, especially the new actors, this appetite for new sort of procurement or support development, such as the Launcher Challenge. Of course, we understand the appetite for money, which is and visibility and a customer. But are there anything that you continue to need from R&D agencies? I mean, is the existence of large R&D agencies still relevant or useful for actors such as PLD?
So it's a very good question. So of course we are following and we are preparing our proposal. People in the office working to to send to be compliant with the deadline. So from our point of view, let me say from PLD Space side, it was not a strategical decision, but we struggled a lot in the past 10 years. So we developed so many capabilities, so many subsystems, a lot of technologies at home. So maybe today we are not asking for so many R&D projects. So we are not applying to so many R&D, let me say, contracts inside European Space Agency. Just one that for us is one of the most important is the reusability technology inside the FLPP program. We started that development in collaboration with ESA in 2018 with a fully demonstrator tested in 2019, and now we are progressing and developing this kind of very new technology for us. But all the others, and this is one of our strength position today, are all developed at home, and all of our technology are scalable. So we are capable to manufacture an extractor of 2 meters diameter or 6, because we are using the same aluminum alloy, same welding, same with engines. At the end of the day, we are using same injectors, same turbopumps, same blah, blah, but at larger scale. So sometimes the challenge is from the infrastructure point of view, because it's not the same a test bench to test, 5 tons engines or 50 tons engines thrust. And we are investing on that. As you know, we have the largest private test bench in Europe, in Teruel, in the middle of nowhere in Spain, owned by PLD Space, and we are capable to test full engines, full boosters. So for us, testing and being the owners, 3 hours by car from our headquarters test bench is our massive competitive advantage to move from Mira 1 to Mira 5 in 2 years. That is crazy. And from Mira 5 to whatever Tony will see in our proposal late this year in another 2 years because of that, because we fully vertically integrate that. And I want to be very honest with the audience, because when we start that business, we not receive any support from nobody. So we start to develop our career completely out of, let me say, the aerospace industry. We won a super small contract from the European Commission, super small contract from European Space Agency. That makes sense. Our credibility at that day was nothing. But that situation at that moment, we start to develop everything outside the aerospace industry. And the point today is like we launch a super complex launch vehicle, and we are manufacturing the first orbital class vehicle with no R&D support. So again, it's not a strategical decision, it was how we develop the things. But today, this is our strong, let me say, value proposal to the institutions, that we save money because we use from the taxpayer, we use private money, we do super lean and super cost efficient R&D, and today we can offer it to our customers like ESA or even Arianespace.
Thank you, Raul. Perhaps Charlotte, perhaps a difficult question, I don't know. I mean, it's very politically correct to say that we expect the EU to be the aggregator of the institutional launch domain, but is it really today an issue? We know it was an issue a few years ago where several member states were launching their own satellites on non-European launcher, but is it still an issue
It's
today?
still the case, huh?
Okay.
Unfortunately, but it's still the case.
So it's not marginal, it's still an issue. Okay. Perhaps it's time, we have 15 minutes left. Perhaps it's time to open the discussion to the audience, and I would be surprised if the topic of access to space wouldn't raise the question. Yes, we see Leah, yes, in the background.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. Just a quick question. There's an increasing amount of governments internationally that are also keen to develop their methods of access to space. So I'd be interested in what the European institutions are doing, working with these governments, how they're imploring access to space, and in turn, how private companies are looking towards non-European nations. I'm thinking specifically Africa with its equatorial line is looking towards developing these capabilities. How does private sector message with that? And how do the institutions diversify themselves there, not to just have only a European project? Thank you.
Isabella, you mentioned opening the market. So.
I will start saying that access to space is not easy. It's not that it's tricky for Europe, it's tricky worldwide. A part of the huge success of SpaceX, there were many difficulties. I think about Japan and others, so it's really requiring a high level of technology. So indeed, the idea is to have more actors in Europe. Why not to attract new space developing countries? I mean, there is an increasing of space ecosystem in other parts of the world. So why not to offer European services to these new actors? Access to space, in any case, remain a very strategic autonomous domain. I mean, the US doesn't want to develop their own one. The Chinese did the same. The Indian and Europe the same. I was reminding before there is a very huge commercial. Huge. There is a commercial sector, but also for the Commission is key to have autonomous access to space because we have satellite, and it will be more and more the case with stronger security features. And this is not going to decrease. On the contrary, we're going to increase in the future.
Thank you, Tony. You can complement?
Just shortly, I can add to what Isabella said, that it is a question of sovereignty, and we are looking to be independent from all technologies outside of Europe. So we are really focusing on sovereignty and not using technologies from outside. But it's difficult, but this is a goal.
While you get your Carla.
Tony, Carla Filotico, Partner Managing Director at Nova Space, merger of Space Tech Partners with Euroconsult, if you don't know us yet. I have a question in regard to your comments on the future projections of satellites, Tony. You were mentioning that according to you, there will be space for at least, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 smaller class launchers and 1 larger class. So are you suggesting 2, based on my memory, at least 6 smaller launcher in a very good development phase to merge together? What is your view on the future evolution of the European small launcher market? Thanks.
So what I said was there seems to be room for us being able to be anchor customer to 2 small launch systems on top of Vega. And now the fact introducing competition is good. Everybody agrees on more competition, but it means that there will be winners and there will be losers. Huh? This is the backside of the coin when you want to introduce competition. And I don't know whether the commercial market will allow everybody to live and prosper. It's a question. And I'm sure Raul has been thinking about that as well.
Thank you. If no audience in the room for the moment, I have another question for you. So we see the development of several companies. We have PLD, we have ISAR, we have RFA, we have others. It seems logical unless miracle happen, and they happen sometimes, that the market will not be sufficient to sustain everybody. So at some point, companies will go bankrupt. So are there any plans within ESA or within the Commission to prepare this evolution and perhaps help consolidation, or if not helping consolidation, perhaps making sure that the institutions are taking benefits of the technological bricks that have been developed? Is there something, or is it too early in the process?
I think it's too early, but we have been thinking about when we do competition and choose winners, there will be losers, and this is a problem. But we cannot say, okay, let's help everybody. Then we end up in the same old institutional world that we are in today, and this we don't want to. So it will be tough.
And it's a, yes, sorry, Raul.
Yes, because I hear that let me say during the panel several times, then there is a lot of launchers. So let me or close your eyes and see, let me see in the coming 2-3 years, not that far, in a super optimistic scenario, like PLD space launching, let me say, being like super compatible with our manifest today, our colleagues from ISAR, from RFA to Orbex, is not that much. So the industrial, let me say, ramp up, starting from 0 to launch something, to launch 4 rockets per year, to go to 10. So we are seeing, for example, Rocket Lab struggling with 10 launches per year. They are using super sophisticated technology, so we can do mass production faster than Rocket Lab today, similar to what Firefly is doing, for example, examples at United States. So I don't see a future in the coming 2-3 years, like without that space. Because if you use, let me say, all the numbers of satellites under development, the mass to be launched into space, it's higher than the capacity of all the newcomers today in Europe. So I see a future in the coming like 2-3 years to compare our reliability, because there are markets to launch that small vehicle, and we have like a queue of customers that they want to fly with us. So I see a future with that 4-5 players like launching, and the champion, in my opinion, must be the company that launch in a higher reliability ratio and in a higher cadence ratio. Because at the end of the day, for me, the judge, it's the insurance industry. Because at the end of the day, in the commercial launchers, you must insure more or less all the payloads. And if you are not capable to offer something that is insurable, you are completely out. So we need to take care to generate this kind of champions, because if before that you say you win, imagine PLD space win, of course, and our colleagues from, I don't know, other country, maybe we are missing, we are with this kind of loss. So this is why, in my opinion, or according to our opinion, institutions must be like customers, like to put in payload, put in mission, and to move to the industry to develop the vehicle. So if we select, let me say, from the policy point of view, which is the vehicle winner and not the service, maybe we are like not doing the same mistake again. But I think we need to leave, let me say, these super promising players that they are doing amazing things, like us and our colleagues in Germany, UK, and France, and other countries. Leave us like compete, and I think there are missions for that small players, and to see which one will be the real winner.
Many thanks. Find the room extremely silent for the yes, no? Someone else just. So perhaps it's time to conclude, and
I have a question. with
Yes.
you. Yes. Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
So Matthew Small from the UK mission to the EU. So my question relates to the kind of the market dynamics. But don't worry, I'm not going to ask you all how many launch providers there's going to be in 10 or 20 years. So the focus, of course, of the panel is about autonomous access to space and for Europe, and of course that's important for the, in particular, institutional space programs. I wonder what the view of the panel is of the role of export of European space services to other nations and regions. What is the role for that in the kind of future of the European launch industry, in addition to kind of European launch for Europe?
Charlotte?
Well, about export, you said, sorry? I'm not sure I really understood the question, but it's
I'll rephrase. Does Europe want to sell its launch services to non-Europe? Do we want to be?
that's what we've always done, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so what that might that look like? What are the enabling conditions to continue to succeed in that, as well as the sort of inward autonomy question?
I think that when Europe organized its own access to space, it started with selling launchers outside of Europe, and we have customers like PLD Space all around the world. I think you had Amazon on the previous panel. We have 18 launchers in our backlog for Amazon. We have also we're working on the collaboration with other launch service providers elsewhere in the world. For example, India, we have signed a letter of intent with NSIL to maybe explore ways of setting backups, mutual backups between launchers between France and India. So it's something that we're still doing every day. And I don't think it's going to stop because as we said, the size of the demand in Europe is too small to sustain a sufficient launch cadence that ensure reliability. Reliability. So it's very vital for us to continue to do so. But maybe you want.
Thank you. No, but I think that Tony wanted to. No, you wanted to read? No. I was mistaken.
I think Charlotte
Said
said
it
it
all.
very well,
Okay.
but just to, for the last 45 years, we have been leveraging on the commercial market outside of Europe to sustain our own access to space. This has actually done it, made it affordable to access this commercial market. And this has been, I mean, we have been launching about half of all the geostationary telecommunication satellites. This is changing now, but if you look back, that was usually our share of the market.
Ludwig, you have 1 minute for your last question. So Carolina is running.
Yes, thank you. Raoul, you just made a point, and I just wanted to make sure I understand it and have Tony's point on it. You said a vehicle winner versus mission winner. Enormous difference, obviously, yeah. And a very good point. It never occurred to me so clearly when you said it. So, Tony, is it a vehicle winner or a mission winner in the challenge?
Vehicle winner or a mission?
Vehicle. So
no. It's a mission winner. That's clear. We are not going to develop a launcher. We are going to procure services. Now there is a discussion ongoing. Are we going to procure one service demonstration and then a number of launch service orders afterwards? Or are we going directly into a block buy, say 10 launchers? And this is an ongoing discussion that we have. And I'm very keen to see what the startups are proposing in that respect, because we have not completely defined what it will be.
Thank you very much. And this concludes actually our panel. Thank you very much. And thank you, all of you. And I think you deserve a round of applause Also for not beating around the bush. It was very honest, which is relatively rare. So thank you very much.